Yeah. I mean, born and raised here in KC. Grew up on 22nd Street. Middle brother of three. I got Jerron. Everybody know, probably hands down the best high school player ever out of Kansas City. And then my younger brother, Brandon. Grew up like any other brothers in the hood. We was trying to make it out and found that hooping was our ticket, and we did it. We rolled with it. But like I said, by the time we hit 10 and 11, basketball took off for us. Like, we was one of the first traveling team that we had guys from all around the country. We were sponsored by Nike. We had all this stuff going on. They had Jerron, who was number one. They had Corey Maggette, who was number two. And they had Corleone Young, who was number three in the country, all on the same team. Also, we had Mike Miller, Kevin Braswell, Earl Pickett Jr. was on our squad. And so we ended up having like 5 or 6 pros on that team. I've been hooping since I was 9 and ain't stopped. I still hoop to this day.
Yo. Welcome to Scheme Heme TV. I'm in here with the homeboy Kareem Rush today.
Yes, sir.
Finally got the privilege to be sitting down with my homie. This one of the people this channel was kind of built for, you know what I mean? Kind of shine light on the people, put some light on our town. So we're gonna shoot through my man's story. Kind of kick it back to the beginning, let these people know where you from.
Yeah. I mean, born and raised here in KC. Grew up on 22nd Street, it's been a long road, bro. But basketball's been kind of what has opened the gates, for me and my family, so always repping KC wherever I go. So appreciate you having me on the show.
What year was you born?
Born 1980, October 30th, 1980. So I'll be 43 this year. So middle brother of three. Obviously, I got Jerron, who is 44 now. Everybody know, probably hands down the best high school player ever out of Kansas City. And then my younger brother, Brandon, 38. So grew up like any other brothers in the hood. We was trying to make it out and, found that hooping was our ticket, and we did it. We rolled with it.
So what about moms and pops? Was moms and pops in the house?
Yeah, mom was there, pop's not there. So basically I grew up with just my mom and my grandma were really the two people that really were our pillars growing up. We got a very small family, like circle of family. So it's like me, my mom, my brothers, obviously, my grandma, my aunt, and my uncle, pretty much all we grew up with.
What type of work was moms doing back then?
Mom did a bunch of government jobs, standard shit, working 2 or 3 jobs, make sure she can feed us. But like I said, by the time we hit 10 and 11, basketball took off for us. So a lot of that pressure was relieved of her because at that time we started traveling to AAU. We had a team sponsor, so we started getting, familiar with some other families and some other things. So a lot of pressure was taken off moms early on because of basketball.
So what about school? Where was you going to school at as a kid?
Started off at C.A. Franklin, and then went to Paul Robeson in 6th grade. And then my 7th grade year is when we got brought over to Pembroke. They wanted Jerron. I was kind of like a secondary part of the deal. They wanted Jerron to come over there, so I came along with him. We started over in Pembroke Hill at 7th and 8th grade. And rolled that out, man. That was just kind of a big culture shock, going from where we grew up to all of a sudden being around the richest families in Kansas City. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things, especially seeing those family dynamics and what it was like to see a mom and dad in the household, loving family. And I didn't have that, but to see that type of family and see, what a father figure could do for it definitely made some impact on me as I grew.
Who was some of the basketball players you looked up to kind of coming up as a kid?
Looking up to it, there's only one, my brother, Jerron. He's the only reason why I played basketball. As I got older, I always had a lot of different interests. I love music at an early age. I love, drawing. I love all these different things. But as any other young brother, you see your older brother doing something, you want to follow him. So Jerron was a phenom, man. Like by the time he was 11, 12 years old, he was the best player in the country. So for me, I was like, shit, if I can keep up with him, then, I can do something. So that was my whole focus, growing up. It's like, how can I eventually be better than my brother? Because I knew if I did that, then couldn't nobody else fuck with me because couldn't nobody fuck with Jerron.
How old was Jerron when he was dunking?
7th grade. Jerron broke a backboard his first time in like 8th grade.
This day will be remembered for Jerron's farewell.
Have you ever done that before?
Oh, yeah, I did it one time when I was an 8th grader.
But I was dunking by 7th grade too. But Jerron was, like I said, his 8th grade year, he shattered a backboard somewhere in Kansas. But I was 6'4" and a half, 7th grade. Jerron was probably 6'6", 215 as a 7th grader. Jerron was a big dude. Jerron was like a LeBron James. If YouTube was around when Jerron was growing up, Jerron would have been the internet. Jerron would have been like Zion, some shit like that. He would have had that type of following because the shit that I saw him do, you know, I didn't even see pros do. He was doing this shit in high school.
Was any competition coming up in Kansas City back then for y'all?
I mean, amongst our AAU team, yeah. But I mean, we had Earl. You know, we had Pickett Jr. was on our squad. But we started getting really good. We had Kareem Young used to come in from Wichita. Like we was one of the first traveling team that we had guys from all around the country that we put a team together. Like, we were sponsored by Nike. We had all this stuff going on. So we had, you know, I played up. I played on Jerron's team. But one time they had Jerron, who was number 1. They had Corey Maggette, who was number 2. And they had Kareem Young, who was number 3 in the country, all on the same team. Also, we had Mike Miller, Kevin Braswell, Earl. I was on that team. So we ended up having like 5 or 6 pros on that team. And we did that for a couple of years. And I had my younger squad that we didn't have any pros besides myself, but we won nationals at 13, we won again at 15, so we had a successful team too.
So who was some of the coaches you had back then as a kid?
Yeah, probably the most impactful guy I had, kind of, at the time I needed a father figure, so it was my first coach, Lafayette Norwood. Passed away a few years ago, but fantastic coach. I was with him since I was like 10. So he taught me a lot of stuff about being a young man, you know, responsibilities and all that type of stuff. So I learned a lot from him. But as far as, like I said, teaching me the game, I had an internal passion, drive to be better than my brother. You know, so I knew that was, for me to get that, I was gonna have to work on my game more than anybody. So that was kind of my inner drive. And obviously, at the time, I grew up, I loved Michael Jordan, all that type of shit. But as far as like someone to emulate and teach me shit, you know, I had it internally. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna work my ass off till I get better than my brother.
So what was y'all one-on-one games like back then?
He used to beat my ass for a long time until I didn't beat Jerron until I was probably like 16. So it was always a constant, you know, older brother beating up on little brother until he finally can't do it no more. And so I finally got that, you know, I think I was like 16, I finally beat him. And then it became kind of even. But I would say at our peaks, skill level, I was probably the best out of us 3. As far as just the kind of raw scoring, raw skill. Brandon was kind of a combination of us both. And Jerron was just a straight raw athlete.
That's how I used to hear about back in the day. But Brandon, though, the young one.
Yeah.
Wait till he come.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere, man, to be honest with you. Like, I couldn't imagine what it was like growing up under our shadow. I knew what it was like being Jerron's little brother. And I was doing some shit. So it was, I can't only imagine having to grow up underneath both of us, especially what we did in high school. So he came out of nowhere, but he had some troubles in high school, was bouncing around high schools, and they decided, you know, for his betterment to go and ship him out back east to Mount Zion so he can focus on basketball. And all of a sudden I started hearing more and more about him. He getting good. He'd come down to Mizzou. He started dunking and shit. I'm like, damn, where this shit coming from? He was skinny and shit, but he had crazy bounce. Before he tore his knee up, Brandon had stupid bounce.
So he was dunking, what, 6th grade?
Yeah, probably 6th grade, but doing crazy between leg shit, warm up like that.
Because he was part of the new era. This shit was kind of getting freaky now.
All that freaky shit. Then he tore his knee up, so to see him do that and then have to shift his game to become a shooter, I tell you how hard he had to work. Because at first he was a straight athlete.
So back then you really probably ain't had no chances to work no jobs or nothing like that. You was just strictly to the ball.
I've been hooping since I was 9 and ain't stopped. I still hoop to this day. Like every
so what
day.
about the music? You was in the choir and everything back then?
Yeah. So anybody who know me, I sing just as much as I play basketball probably. I've probably sang more than I played basketball in my life. So singing high school choir, and I've just always been a singer. I love to write music. And then 2010, when I tore my knee up, I had about an 18-month rehab process. So I was like, shit, do I want to go back to school or do I want to try this music thing out? So I put some money behind some music and kind of started that process back in 2010.
As a kid, like, did you have inspirations of certain singers you looked up to?
Oh, shit. Jodeci, Boyz II Men, Maxwell. I can always copy them. So I know if I can do that, then I can sing. I used to sing the girls all the time.
So was you in the studio back then or did you just?
First time I got in the studio was 2010. Before then, I never recorded anything. I was just singing songs.
Straight up.
But I decided, okay, shit, let me try it. And like I said, my Billboard, my first song was a Billboard AC charter, so it did pretty well.